Hello, welcome to Aspire to Soar. My name's Kerry, and today I am joined by Tara, and she's going to share with us her own healing story from cancer. Just before we get started, I do just want to say neither myself or Tara are medical doctors, and we are not giving any medical advice. Tara is just simply sharing her story with us today. So thank you for being here today, Tara.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
I'm really excited to hear your story. So to start with, can you tell us about the type of cancer that you had, what it was called, and how it affected your life?
Of course, yes. So I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer in September 2016. Just brief paraphrase, so you know a bit of my story. At that time, I was dealing with a lot of trauma because my best friend had died exactly a year earlier from leukemia at the age of 46. And she had chosen a total standard route of treatment. And so I had a lot of trauma around being with her for months in the hospital and seeing all she went through. And so when I was diagnosed, I really sat with the form of treatment they wanted me to do, which was chemo, surgery, and radiation. And I come from a very natural, holistic background. So I did a lot of research and decided to take an exclusive natural path of healing. So I did that for 2.5 years and was doing quite well until a very stressful incident occurred in my life, which made the cancer spread. So not to give away my whole story, I've had a very diverse experience with both exclusively natural medicine and then also allopathic medicine. So could you tell me the second part of the question again? I just want to make sure I get it.
No, that's okay. So so that was the cancer that you had and how it was affecting you at the time. So leading to your diagnosis and then after your diagnosis, how you were being personally affected by it.
Thank you. Yes. Well, when I was diagnosed, I mean, a lot of people assume, oh, you get a diagnosis and you feel terrible. You feel like you're dying. But for me, I didn't have any side effects of it. Like I had a tumor in my left breast, but I was still able to function. I was able to work. Like nobody knew. In fact, I was looking incredibly healthy because I was doing all natural techniques. Yeah. A lot of the interesting projection around cancer treatment is that they imagine you looking sick, which comes from the effects of chemotherapy and such. So it didn't really affect my life, although it was very frightening. I dove into a total natural route of treatment. So I was doing a serious protocol for years and years and years. Once the cancer spread, which was about 2.5 years after diagnosis, it really started affecting me. It spread to my lungs, my liver, my spine, and my adrenal glands. And it got so bad that there was so much cancer in my lungs. I could not talk and hold a conversation. I could not lay down to sleep at night because I was coughing so much for about 2 months. So I had to sit up sleeping, which was very hard. My bones started breaking down. So I started walking with a cane. So that was very difficult. And around that time, which was about 2 years ago, I was referred to hospice. And just to share more of my story here, because I just spoke briefly about it, is that at that point I moved from California back home to Kaua'i, Hawaii, where my father is from. And the medical system was very kind and loving here. And they pretty much said, you're dying, you have a chance to live, you can try chemotherapy. And at that point, I had so much trauma around doing chemotherapy because of what I witnessed with my friend that I had to face my fear of chemo and deal with the PTSD about being with my friend when she was going through her health journey. So once I started doing chemotherapy, it was very, very, very hard. I lost 20 pounds. There's times I almost died. I was in the hospital, but I slowly started improving over a period of time. And there's more of my story to share too. Just in brief, I ended up 6 months after I started chemo, I broke my left hip and I had to have emergency double hip surgery. So I need to have a full left hip replacement. And then a titanium rod put in my right side from my knee to my hip because I had a hole in my right femur. So I had to learn to walk again. And 2019 was a very hard year for me.
Yes.
So that was very dramatic. It really affected me, but it took a long time to affect me.
So effectively you were managing with the natural route. You were following the protocols that you'd found, and you were going down that road until the trauma affected you?
Yeah, I mean, just to share in brief, I ran a horse retreat center in Northern California where people would come and do equine workshops with me and private sessions, and they would stay there. So it was a 10-acre ranch. I had 4 horses. I loved it, but it was a lot of work. Just in brief, I had a neighbor that turned me into the planning department because I didn't know that one of the buildings was not legal for people to stay in. And because of that, there was a domino effect where I had to shut down my retreat center, and the overhead was so expensive to run it for the care of the horses and the land that I realized over a period of many months, I had to sell my ranch, which was, it was very stressful. So I believe it was that incredible stress that made the cancer grow. And then I ended up going to Mexico for treatment, all natural treatment. And then I eventually sold the ranch and then moved back home to Hawaii. So during that period of time, it spread throughout my body. So by the time I came back home to Hawaii, I was in a very, very bad state. So it wasn't so much the trauma around my friend. It was more having to let go of my life, let go of some of my horses. And it was a huge letting go.
Wow. Okay. So how did you, because I know you said that you then came back to Hawaii and you took the chemotherapy treatment. How did you manage to get yourself to a place where you were able to do that? Because I know you said you had a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. Obviously, you've got this huge stressful experience that just happened to you. So you had a lot to deal with in that package on its own. What route did you take to being able to clear through that and work through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did a ton of inner work. I really examined my trauma. I realized, this is having to do with Deb, my friend who died. I had to do a lot of inner work. And I actually did the work of Byron Katie, if you've heard of that, which is about changing your thoughts. Because my perception and just a little bit about my story, when I was diagnosed, I immediately started sharing my story in the public eye. So I had a Facebook page, I made videos, a YouTube page, and I was interviewed on various online conferences and blogged and shared how chemo killed people. So I was this natural cancer person saying, don't do chemo, it kills. And then it was this, oh my gosh, I have to humble myself and to save my life, do the thing I fear most. So I had to really kind of eat my words and say, hey guys, I'm trying the thing I told everybody not to do. So I really, like I said, I worked with the work of Byron Katie, shifting my thoughts, because my perception of chemotherapy before was that it killed. And then I had to think of it as a healing elixir that would heal me. And I had to work through a lot of trauma around my best friend's death and really look at, do I really want to live? Like, is this worthwhile to me? At that point, my son was 26 years old, and I realized I want to be here for my son. Because I was in the natural cancer healing world and I had so many followers, I already had known so many friends, sadly, who died from just choosing an exclusive natural route, who had kids my son's age and such, and younger, which was heartbreaking. So I'd seen what it could be like, and I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. I need to open up my mind. So once I started shifting my belief system, because I feel like our thoughts are the most powerful thing. We can create a reality and make it heaven or hell. then it wasn't so scary. And also just want to say, when I was in Northern California, I experienced a fair amount of bullying and manipulation, which was very unfortunate, not from everybody, but from a fair amount of people in the medical system there. So I never felt safe doing the medicine. I tried to avoid them. Whereas when I came back home to Hawaii, the doctors and everybody, they were so full of the aloha spirit. That's a Hawaiian word. It means love. So they were saying, we know you don't want to do this, but we suggest you do it rather than trying to coerce me into doing it. So that made all the difference, to know they were coming from a place of love rather than using fear.
Yeah.
And that's a huge piece of it, where it made me feel comfortable to be vulnerable with them.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was very grateful for that.
Yeah. And it's like you say, those are the tactics. They just don't work for some people, especially, but depending on the mindset that you're in at the time, you can just shut right down. And that's, the more somebody wants to push you, the more you're inclined to push back against them. So yeah, it's certainly interesting. And I think it's something that can be learned all around, really, about the way that we talk to people who we think we have some sort of authority position with, or in that way. And not everybody's the same, and everybody doesn't respond to being spoken to the same. And one person can take that doctor as giving them really great advice, where the other person can take that as feeling threatening and bullying and authoritarian. So it definitely is interesting for people to understand that the way you talk to somebody, and this taking everybody more on an individual basis, which sounds like what the doctors in Hawaii looked at what you were about, who you were, and then spoke to you as that person rather than just somebody passing through, which makes
exactly.
Yeah,
that's so true. And I also want to say too, on that same note, like one of my big healing revelations, and I've seen this time and time with friends who heal from these dire diagnoses like I had, and what is so helpful for me is to really believe in my healing potential. If I'm constantly caught up in the mind frame of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, I have cancer, then that's feeding fear in my body. Whereas and it takes a lot of inner work in my mind. Joe Dispenza talks about this, and I'm really into his work.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. But your thoughts matter. They really do. So I'm constantly seeing myself healing and believing that, which is why I feel like I'm kind of the miracle case, and the tumors keep shrinking in my body, my bones are growing back. Whereas if I kept that hamster wheel going in my mind of feeding the fear, which is very hard to do, like I said, then I wouldn't be doing so well. So that's like one of my biggest keys to healing, is what I feed my brain.
Yeah. And fear is a big one. And fear makes or breaks. Like you said, it is a maker or a breaker. You can either continue or you are just trapped in fear, and it's really, really hard to get out of it. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And unfortunately we live on planet Earth that is a hotbed of fear, and because it's not only your own fear that you become entrapped in, there's the fear of everything else as well, and it's a lot, and being able to recognize it and come out the other side is amazing, and seeing it for what it is essentially is what you managed to do, is you saw through it and you saw what it was. So before this, you were going the natural route, and you were sharing all this information with people. What sort of diet and lifestyle were you living at that point? What sort of lifestyle were you living? Was there a lot involved in that you were doing, or was, I imagine it can be a lot and it can take over your life?
Yes. Yeah, it's a great question. It was pretty much a full-time job. I had a whiteboard listed with all the things I did each day. I've been blogging. So if you look back years, wait, like, 3-4 years ago, you can see the long list of everything I did. But yeah, it took hours. I did infrared saunas, coffee enemas, major amount of juicing. It was a period of 2.5 years. So I experimented with different diets. Basically I ate very clean before too. It wasn't like I was one of those people that had a horrible diet. All my friends they all said, Tara, you're the most healthy person I know. Like I ate gluten-free organic before. So it wasn't a big change really diet wise, like it is for some people. But yeah, I had a whole protocol, acupuncture, emotional healing, getting therapeutic help, which was very important. Energy healers, tons of different supplements, like all these wacky, sometimes nasty things. And there was a lot. There was definitely a lot. Oh, and vitamin infusions. That's something I've been doing for years and years, and I still continue to do. Yeah, it's a full repertoire.
Yeah. And like you say, it can become a full-time job, just keeping up with everything that you're doing during the day, that in itself can be stressful, and making sure you're covering all the bases, and that can add even more stress into an already stressful situation.
And it's expensive too. I just want to say that it's very, like, I had to do so many fundraisers over that period of time. People were so generous and supportive of me, but it's very costly because insurance doesn't cover that natural route of treatment.
So that must have been hard then, when you had to go and tell people that you had decided to go for the chemotherapy.
Oh yes.
Particularly after, and your ego, our egos don't like to have to do those, don't have to make those climb downs. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was really, really hard. I had to do a lot of work around that. Of just like, okay, I'm the one who's been saying this, and now I'm sharing with people that I'm trying chemo. And it took a lot of courage. It was really hard because I was like, well, people are going to call me a hypocrite. And, but it was really beautiful. Most people were really supportive because I had so many people following me, and they saw my decline.
Yeah.
And they said, well, good for you, Tara. We want you to live. And I'm sure some people stopped following me, which ultimately is fine because it's my life. Yeah. But I think, and it's a big part of my message now, because there is such a divide between the allopathic conventional world of medicine and natural. It's very much like the political system. And part of what I talk about in my book and what I share in my videos is actually an integrated route, which is both medicines together, can be powerful, and not to exclude one over the other. Because now I'm doing both. I get shots once a month, 3 shots. And but I still continue up my natural routine. And I believe that because of the fact that I kept up my natural healing while I was doing chemo, I healed, and the fact that I continue to do so well. So, I really think it's important for people to consider both. And I'm trying to put my voice out to create a bridge between the two, because it's important to realize there's value in both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And you should never discount all your options until.
Exactly.
So, so once you started on the chemotherapy, because that was in 2019, and now we're in 2021, and you do not look like you have any of those problems anymore that you were just telling me about before. So how long did this take? I mean, obviously it's a short period of time anyway, from 2019 to now. So how long was it until you started feeling better?
Right. Yeah. Well, 2019, like I said, was a very hard year. That's when I was doing chemo. I lost 20 pounds, almost died a few times, broke my hip. I mean, it was a crazy year. I went through a breakup with my relationship. I had a mold outbreak in my year. It was like diving deep into the most challenging situation. So 2020, which was a horrible year for most people, was actually a great year for me, because I could walk, I could dance, I have horses, I take care of my horses. So how long did it take? probably, it was about a year, I would say, when the decline happened and I was in a really bad state. I started chemo, I broke my hip. The chemo treatments took longer because I had broken my hip, because I had to, I was in bed for, a month, and I couldn't do treatments. So yeah, it was about a year. So February 2020, which was ironically just weeks before the virus hit, it was like this liberation time. And yeah, I just feel so incredibly grateful to be alive, because most people don't know I've gone through that unless they know my story or unless I tell them.
It puts a whole new perspective, like you say, on 2020, when a lot of people are so down about everything that's going on, and you're saying, well, it's just great to be alive. Let's just start with the small things of, it's just nice to be here and experience whatever's happening. I'm here, which is, whole different perspective.
Yeah, it's, and I talk about this too with my sharings. It's kind of a blessing in a weird way to have a serious cancer diagnosis, because you realize how valuable life is. And it was the same lesson when my friend died. It woke me up to life is precious, and to really try to appreciate each moment, which, I don't always keep in my mind, but it woke me up in a dramatic way. Yeah. So that's the blessing of having a serious health incident. So yeah, 2020 was hard too for me, in the fact that there was restrictions, but overall it was a very joyous year because I survived all of that.
Yeah.
So perspective is everything.
Yes,
for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. You said your doctors now are quite supportive with how you're choosing to go forward with your medical treatment now.
Yes. I have a team of wonderful doctors. I'm very lucky. Like I said, so I'm continuing on with a natural treatment. Mm-hmm. So I see naturopathic doctors. I get acupuncture once a week, and everybody's just so kind and caring. And then also I continue on with a conventional treatment with what they've prescribed, which is basically like a bone builder, because I had so much damage in my bones. Mm-hmm. Exgeva, and then Falzadex, which is 2 shots I take once a month also, that is a hormone blocker because I have hormone-induced breast cancer. So yeah, everybody's very, very supportive of me, and my doctors, they're surprised that I'm doing so well. It's kind of like I'm a miracle case. So yeah, and again, it's scary also being in this position, because I have a lot of friends with cancer who are in my same exact position, and some aren't doing well. And I've seen so many deaths, which has been heartbreaking. So I always know, and my oncologist reminds me that the cancer comes back at some point. So I'm always keeping that seed in my mind of, awareness of like, do not take this for granted. You never know. Like, I don't know. Before I was diagnosed, I had this concept, oh yeah, I'll live to whatever, 70, 80. But now, I'm 51. I recently turned 51, and every birthday is an incredible gift, because I didn't even know if I'd make it to my 50th birthday last year. So yeah, I'll just keep going as long as I can.
Yeah. And like you say, every day's a gift. Every day is amazing. Every day feels wonderful. And it's nice to be able to be in that space and feel grateful, because so many of us, we trudge along with our lives, and we just think, oh no, another day, another, everything that's going on. And to be able to have that perspective, I think, is amazing. And that's what so many people have got who have come through these difficult periods in your life, is just that perspective to feel the breeze every morning, feel the sun on your face, and just that air of gratitude for that, I think is super important and super amazing.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
So if you were going to talk to somebody who was in the same position as you were now, and you could give them one piece of advice, whether that be lifestyle or any other advice, what would that be?
Yes. Well, it comes around to what I said before about choosing your thoughts and really believing that you're healing. And I made a video recently that's called Fear versus Cancer, which really examines what's more powerful, the fear of cancer or actual cancer. And this applies to anybody, whether you're going through arthritis or Lyme or, whatever it may be, that to really take whatever health opportunity you have as a path of growth and embrace it and surrender to it, not to give up, but to see like, okay, this is really hard, but what am I going to do to help transform this? How can I see through this? When I was going through chemo, it was so hard, mentally and physically. My body was in pain and I was having these physical sensations. My brain, it was like I was attacked with demons, and I just had to surrender and to the experience and keep remembering the beauty and the joy and the light. So yeah, my biggest advice, you could be taking the most powerful medicines, but if your mind frame is not embracing the opportunity to the best of your ability, you're probably not going to heal as well as if you were transcending it and, like you said, dealing with the trauma and working through it. So yeah, my biggest advice would be choose love over fear, to really work on your thoughts and be present with every thought that's going through your mind, because that will make or break your opportunity, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. And I love what you said about surrender as well, because it's so important. Is surrender, and that phrase, isn't there? What you resist persists.
Yes.
The more you resist, the more it keeps coming and coming and coming. So yeah, I love that. And yeah, really great advice for people who are in a position where they could be, dealing with a lot of fear. Really great advice. So if people want to find out more about you, Tara, do you have some specific places they can go to? Do you want me to just leave a list underneath? What's best for you? Do you want to give anything now, or?
Yeah, you can leave the list, but also tell people. Yeah, so like I said, I've been very active in the public eye. I have a YouTube channel. It's my address, Tara Coyote, TaraCoyote. So you can find my YouTube channel. I have a lot of videos. I also have a website. It's called Cancer Warrioress. Mm-hmm. And I have links to my videos. I've been blogging. I have book resource pages, film resource pages. I share my protocol. There's links to other people. I'm very active on my Instagram page, Tara Coyote. I'm coming out with a book in July of 2021. It's called Grace, Grit, and Gratitude. So I'm really excited about that. So all that information will be on my social media pages. And then what else? Oh, I have a Facebook page that's Tara Coyote's Healing Journey. So I also have other pages for my horse work and such, but that's the most important for as far as healing goes.
Excellent. And we'll make sure that they're all listed in the description box underneath the video. So if people want to come and find you, they can do, and have a look at the work you do, the protocols you've used, and they can have a good look at all of that.
Great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. It's such an interesting one and different than the others we've had on as well, which is good. I like the fact that you're pulling through both healing methods and joining them into one together. It's nice and it's a different perspective. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an incredible honor. Appreciate you reaching out to me.
And I definitely know there is somebody that needs to hear this today. There's somebody that needs to see this video and hear this. So I hope they find it.
Me too.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. And thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Aloha.